So just flip it on now, and
I'll just keep buying it from the liquor store. Could have wore a tie today.
Yeah, right. Well, I gotta wait till 6 o'clock here. In accordance with our policies, we'll gavel the meeting order, and we'll start off with the swearing in of the mayor and the new council members. Please raise your right hand. I, Dan Egler,
I, Dan Egler,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
do solemnly swear, I gotta read it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of mayor
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of the mayor
in the city of Cass in the state of Minnesota
in the city of Casson in the state of Minnesota
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. You know what, I'll just give you copies as well, because it might be a little easier for you to
right.
here, just in case. So the vice president had to do this 100 times on Monday or whatever, and that was...
Oh, yeah.
All right, so if you'll stand up, please.
Can you get both get closer to Jim?
Okay, and when we do the swear or affirm, you can choose one or the other. You don't have to say the whole thing, okay?
All right.
All right, so please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I'm Mel Ferris.
I, Brian Wempner,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of councilperson
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of the councilperson
and will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of councilperson
in the city of Cass in the state of Minnesota
in the city of Casson in the state of Minnesota
in the city of Casson in the state of Minnesota
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. We will go ahead and start the meeting, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any corrections or additions for the agenda? Paul?
Nope.
Brian?
Nope. Oh, Brian. Nope, sorry, I
Okay.
wasn't listening.
I do have one add.
Yes.
Just under personnel, confirmation on the police chief wage for 2025.
So we'll add under K, police chief wage confirmation. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
Make the motion to approve as amended.
Thank you, Ryan. We have a second?
I'll
Yep.
second.
Thank you, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Do you have anything you need to discuss on the consent agenda?
I just wanted to ask the Hazelton construction payment for 2023 sewer improvements. Is this the final payment, or is there still some ongoing things?
Yeah, so it's not on the punch list, but we're getting really close.
Okay. So are we expecting these quarterly or monthly?
As we wrap up the project, yeah, it'll probably come in maybe potentially next month, as we wrap the stuff up. We've just been kind of in a holding pattern as they had their other sub that did the sewer lining stuff had to come back, so.
Okay.
That's why there's a little bit of a delay in the end here, because there was no work done on it, so, for some time. But yeah, we're getting really close. I think we're gonna be under budget, and it's at 90% right now, I think the work's gonna be done other than punch list stuff, so yeah, we should be good.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
On E, the resolution for the ice arena, I just want to thank Bridget Gordon and her family for all the fundraising they do for that and donating that. And then my only question was if we could get a follow-up from Howie on what the plan is long-term, short-term for the...
You know, I discussed that, and he's got a couple different ideas. He wants to kick around with the ice arena board.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mel. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There's no visitors to the council. Mayor's report. You have your committee list in the packet. The one thing I do want to add to that, I forgot to put on there, our acting mayor will be Mel Ferris. So, if there's any questions, if not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mel. Have a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public forum, we have Johan Marsland.
Good evening, City Council. Johan Marsland, the Church of the Nazarene at 205 Manorville Avenue. I'm here tonight representing your Ecumenical Society and the churches of the surrounding Casson area, wishing to bring a blessing to the 2025 Council, specifically from the First Baptist Church and Pastor John Tudor, Holy Family Catholic Church, St. John's Lutheran and Pastor John Weissenberger, Pastor Jacob Hansen of Grace Methodist Church and Pleasant Corners Methodist Church, Pastor Dale DePio of the Casson Church of Christ, Mount Zion Lutheran Church and Pastor Mark Olson, the Zwingli United Church of Christ in Bern and Pastor Karen Larson, South Zumbro Lutheran Church and its pastors, Pastor Peter Wittenbach and Jeff Bernards, Our Savior Lutheran Church and Pastor Carl Christie, Community Celebration Church and Pastor Steve Larson, Pastor Paul Thomas of East and West St. Olaf Lutheran Churches, and First Presbyterian Churches and its pastor, Interim Pastor Lauren Olson, and St. Peter's Episcopal Church. We wish the very best for this City Council. We are very glad for those who were elected. Congratulations. And we are hoping that God's blessing be upon you and upon this year. As your Ecumenical Society representative, I would just like to close with a prayer for your council and for your year. May Almighty God be upon you, be in your thoughts, be in your plans, be in all of the considerations of this year, and give you wisdom and grace. May you lead with righteousness. May your decisions be found to be right and good for the people of Casson and for the state of Minnesota. We ask God's blessing upon you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. Next, there's new business. Recommendation to move to a cloud with more services. That'd be Linda?
Just include in your packet, you've got this information, and I'll let Linda go through it. There's a variety of things, but the big catalyst here is obviously switching to the cloud from the current, we have a server that we would have to replace currently, so we felt it might be time to take a look at that. So, Linda, if you want to go ahead and go through it, and if there's any questions for you.
Yeah. Going to the cloud would it would make our systems faster. We would get rid of the server, the hard local server we have in the other room, the backup for that too. The server we have now is going to be obsolete after this year, so we'd have to buy a new one anyway, and that would be run around $7,000. With going to the cloud with Black Mountain software, it would make our programs run faster, and then the extra programs, the BMS Pay and the electronic time cards, would save so much time. And we're anticipating saving a lot of time. I mean, to be able to do other things. It also saves money. We would put the credit card fee back on the customer. Because right now, I think I have in there that we're spending $40,000 a year on credit card fees when we cover that. And all we would have to cover is, we're trying to get as many people on ACH too, because all we have to cover is $1.95 for the ACH charge. So it is saving money in the long run. It's saving time. It's making our systems run faster. Trying to think of what else I had on here. But I mean, I have information on on-site computers because our local server is not part of Black Mountain, our software, so both of them would be separate going into the cloud. So on-site computers has given me, we would be using Azure as our cloud base. There's a one-time setup fee, there's a monthly subscriptions, so that comes to around $5,000 a year. But it'd be more reliable. I mean, the cloud doesn't usually go down unless our internet system goes down. And even if our internet system goes down, sometimes our local server won't work. If there's anything that you wanted to see more of, the time card part of that is $2,500 a year. The BMS pay is, it's actually fairly cheap. It's the cost. It's $1,200 annually. They charge us a chargeback fee for return checks or anything that comes back, but we already charge the customer $30 for any NSF check or return check. They're waiving our portal fee, they're waiving the implementation fee, which is $5,000. I don't see, it just seems to me that this would all improve the quality of service that we have.
Any questions for Linda on that? If there's other information, we don't have to vote on it tonight. If you want to, you can, but we can always bring it back as a meeting time if there are any questions.
Are there any other
One
cities?
thing that I just want to notice that with this system, we did feel like we'd be able to extend the life of our current legacy software as opposed to switching. We'd done a lot of research, looked at switching to Tyler, implementation. We had a lot of issues with HR, manpower last year. We didn't have enough people to really do it. I think we're looking at canceling that, and then we'd be going to this system then. I mean, basically, I think we could probably get at least 5 more years out of Black Mountain without having to incur those large costs up front. And Black Mountain and a couple of the other software companies are actually in the process of merging then. There's Civic Systems and a couple other being merged together, so we think that we might have the technology solution we need for Black Mountain as opposed to having to go to Tyler or one of the other vendors. So
I think this would really
there might be some cost
extend.
savings there too.
Yep. And our support, we already pay almost $15,000 a year for support, and that's the biggest thing, and that's going to continue with Black Mountain. So, I mean, we pay that whether we're in the cloud or not.
Last year at the SEMLM meeting, we talked about data security and cities that have been hacked. Would we still be covered quite extensively if we switched going to the cloud with the Black Mountain software?
Yes. Yes.
How often do they back up that data?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day is backed up. We still do our own backups. Like when I do payroll, there's 3 backups in the process of doing payroll. You still do those. And when I was talking to on-site computers, they actually said the security in the cloud was better than our local server.
I mean, one positive there would be, worst case scenario, you lose 1 month of data. Because you could always back up to the previous month, like utility bills and things like that. I know that last meeting we hosted here in Castle, Lewiston, actually talked about how they got very, very lucky.
Yes.
Because there was like somebody's the file was saved in somebody's outgoing messages or something like that.
Yep.
And, they had auditors there that day, but, I mean, that's been a concern for me, obviously. There's more and more of that data security. I mean, city of, Rochester Public Schools had issues in the last year. Other communities have too, so I think we want to try to avoid that.
So, are you gonna, the ones that are on cloud, you have computers on cloud, you're gonna have other ones that have internet access, but not, because that's where you're gonna get hacked the most, is if you have internet access and the cloud on the same, or we're gonna be running two
They'll
separate?
be separate, just like they are now. There's the guest, and then there's the internal one.
Okay.
So they'll still be separate. What I wanted to say too is, whenever you make this decision, if you don't want to make it tonight, if you want to think on it for a while, it's still going to take, we want it to take about 3 months to move into the BMS pay, because we want to push out to all the customers in CASA, and
Switch over to that ACH.
to switch over to ACH and offer like a $10 discount, one-time $10 discount if they would sign up for ACH. We want to get that message out. We want to take a couple months to be able to get it in the bills and get it out and put it on social media and everything. The other things we can do right away. The Black Mountain, our software going to the cloud, that can be done in a week. Same with the electronic time cards. And then there'll be training for everybody to do the time cards. And on-site computers said it wouldn't take any time at all for them to get all of our stuff up.
Would this have, if we waited and postponed, would it have any impact on pool pass sign-up that comes up in March and April? For paying, when we pay for the pool, is that also coming from, when people pay for their pool pass, does that come out of that?
Oh, my rec will be totally separate.
That'll be separate, okay.
Yeah, my rec is the system they use, and that doesn't actually have anything to do with ours now.
Okay, just,
The ACH fee, is that per account or is it per household?
No, it's per transaction.
Because right now with 2 meters, so then you would get dinged $1.95 for each bill,
Yep.
so,
Because each time, each bill that you set up, if you have yours on auto pay, it's two separate bills. So we get dinged for that every time. But if you have that set up on your credit card as an auto pay, that's 3.95% that the city is paying right now
Mhm.
for each account.
is there a way that we can switch that to where people have 2 meters to have just one bill? So otherwise, people are gonna start looking at it like, I'll write a check and then you gotta, you know what I mean, to say they're $1.95 per meter. There's some people that are gonna have multiple meters, like,
I think we're gonna have to talk to utility billing to see if
That's
they
something we
can,
could flesh out.
I would
Yeah.
think that would.
Right now, you're paying two separate there's two separate charges.
But the city's been paying it.
Yeah, we want to
But-
try and reduce those down. I don't know, I mean, that isn't a huge number of people, but it is some.
but yeah.
I mean, I just see that would benefit people that might have to sign up for it.
Well, and see, the
Plus it
city
might
would
save in
cover
the
that
billing.
$1.95 ACH fee, where now you
Right, so right now-
personally would have to take care of
Right now, we're
that.
eating the total fees.
Yeah.
But if you went to ACH, you wouldn't actually have any of those fees.
Oh,
So
Right.
we're still gonna continue those folks who have got an ACH. We're just not gonna necessarily cover the credit card fee.
oh, so the city would still pay the ACH fee?
Because
Right.
most of our transactions are utility bills. And that was one of the questions I asked. I said, I don't wanna, I pay my utility bill, I don't wanna have to get pay it every
Mhm.
month.
Right.
And we would still, it would cost us less than it does right now.
Okay.
For those transactions, so.
Well, it's easy for you, you just write a check when you come into work, though. Then you don't pay any, then you don't pay any fees.
But it's still a transaction to the city.
Transaction, so the city right now still pays that fee.
But only if you pay with a credit card.
If it's a credit card.
Yeah,
Yeah. If he writes a check, there's no fees, there's nothing like that.
yeah, okay. I've got a lot of questions if,
Like the bottom of the drawer someplace there.
yeah. I've got a bunch of questions, so.
Okay.
First, a comment is, one, I don't like the cloud. Yes, they're gonna have more security because they're a big business, but it's Microsoft. Like, how many people are trying to get into Microsoft servers versus the City of Caston server? Like, I'd rather have us keep our data on site and it'll be ours. So that's my concern with the cloud. Secondly, right now you said we can't pass the credit card fees on to the customer. We're not. Does that mean we can't do it unless we go to the cloud? Or is it just
We could,
something that we're not utilizing in the current software?
yeah, it's just something that they had decided when we first started taking credit cards. We charge anybody who's, if they pay with a credit card and it's not a utility bill, then they have to pay that 3.95%.
Right.
They do, the customer does. But if it's a utility bill, then we pay that.
Okay, so really the collecting credit card fees to offset what we've been paying isn't necessarily a cloud versus non-cloud question, it's a separate question.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
good, that's
Yeah.
fine. You said that the current server's gonna become obsolete, how long have we had it?
Oh, gosh, we've had this one, I want to say since 2012?
So about 12 years?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. The price that you're showing for the cloud service, is that like a contractual 5 years, that's gonna be the yearly cost, or is that something that's gonna get bumped up every year like rent? Do we not know?
I don't know that.
Because at least if we go through this cost, yeah, we spend $7,000 on a server that lasts 12 years. The monthly fees, I presume, won't increase as much as it could potentially from the cloud service, so something to consider. How often do you have issues with the server being down? Because you mentioned uptime with the cloud should be better, which granted, it probably is. I'm just curious, how many times in those 12 years have you had to call to get the server repaired?
In the 12 years, we've probably called them once or twice a year, because there's times when the power goes out, our backup thing went down, we had to buy a new backup.
Yeah, well, the uninterruptible, the UPS, once in a while that has to get replaced, but, I mean, since I've been here, I don't think there's been a tremendous number of issues with the server.
So it's been pretty reliable so far.
That's a question, Linda, that Paul brings up. So let's say we did stick with the local servers still, and I'm not saying we want to do that, it's up to council, but would we still be able to implement the other things that you're looking for, which is the pay, the electronic time cards, the BMS pay, that kind of thing?
As long as we did, like I said, these are two separate cloud issues.
Yep.
There's the software, the Black Mountain, and that's the BMS pay and the electronic time cards. Now, we wouldn't have to go to a cloud with our server back here.
Mm-hmm.
You could be one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But if we wanted those other options with Black Mountain, with the time cards and the BMS pay, we have to be on the cloud with them.
Okay, so I'm looking at the spreadsheet, okay, you got it too. I'm seeing yearly support,
Yep.
that's just to use the software, it doesn't matter which option we choose.
Correct.
Cloud hosting,
Yep.
That I presume is only if we choose the cloud option.
Right,
And then daily time cards and BMS pay is only with the cloud option.
correct.
But the credit card fee adjustment, we can just flip that switch regardless of which one we choose.
Yep.
Okay. And the BMS pay and time cards, you think those are more than worth what the cost is? It'd be that cost
I think
plus the cost
BMS
to go to the
pay
cloud.
I think the BMS pay is a phenomenal program. The time cards, I don't really know if that would save me that much time, because on a normal pay week, I can get payroll done in
2 days, probably.
a day, 2 days, yeah. And it's only in the summer when we add all those summer employees and everything,
Mhm.
then it takes me 2.5, maybe 3 days to get it done. But on a normal payroll, I can get it done in a day. So that's not as important. Plus, it would be, there may be some people like you guys that we wouldn't use it for. You would still turn in your normal hours. So I'd still have to put those in manually. And just like the fire department, I'd still have to put those in manually. So it won't help me with those situations. And we would have to, the summer kids would all have to learn this new program too. They wouldn't be using the time clock at the pool anymore. Or they still could, but I would still have to put those in manually. So the time card one, I don't know, that one, but the BMS pay one, that will save a lot of time. That will save Jess Because when people call in to pay with credit cards, it doesn't actually come to us. They have somebody who does it. And, like, if you want to think about it more, I have the whole,
Maybe that'd be good to send out to everybody.
yeah, I can send this out to everyone, so you can see this is the BMS pay, and what they do for us, and what they charge
Yeah.
for it.
I think what I'd like to know is on the yearly cost for the cloud, if that's some sort of multi-year contract where we know what the cost is gonna be, or if that's gonna be like year by year, they're gonna give us a new price. And then secondly, if you could provide that, I assume that packet right there is your, as a digital version or something, and then maybe, at a future meeting,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe outline more specifically, how many hours of time you think this is gonna save you.
Sure.
Right, because that's a huge factor, right? If we can save you half a day's worth of work every week or something, you know, that's pretty significant.
And with electronic time card, you're gonna have less people handling it and less chance for error, where if you're doing a regular time card, sometimes you gotta have 1 to 2 people looking at them to verify, or
Well,
you
it
have to
certainly
go
puts
back.
the onus on the employee to fill the
Yes.
time card out right versus, oh, Linda screwed it up or something like that. And we wanna try and avoid those errors.
And it puts the onus on the department head.
Yes.
Because
Who's
the
reviewing it.
employee will do their time card, then it gets sent to the department head. Right now, they get a lot more of a personal touch, because if they worked overtime and they want it in comp, and now they've maxed out their comp, I will put it automatically into pay. You know, when I'm doing the timesheets, where that, I don't know if that will automatically do that. And the same if they went over their time off. It should flag them, but a lot of times, if they're earning and using in the same payroll, I haven't used this before, so I don't know.
If we stay with the old system, do we still have to look at upgrading our software then? Because that'd be another fee, like we were looking at that last year.
I think the hope is to try and extend the life of the current system a little bit longer. I mean, we still have to upgrade, I think, the server. That's something that has to be done one way or the other. That's kind of the catalyst for this whole process. But I think we're gonna try and keep Black Mountain going a little bit longer if we can, because like I said, I'd like to save the money. I'd like to see what kind of product they can have for us in the next 18 months after their merger's complete with some of these other companies.
And Black Mountain seems to be able to do everything that other software.
I mean, the biggest weakness is the electric system, and
Right.
that's something that we have a workaround for right now. But if the solar implementation would grow dramatically, then we would have to look at something else, but.
Actually, there's another thing on the spreadsheet I just noticed, for the credit card percent fee, it says $250 minimum. Is that in place now, or is that something that would have to be in place to charge the fee? Because my utility bills usually don't make the $250, so.
Is this one right here that you don't have highlighted, Linda?
Yeah, the one
Or-
that's not yellow for some reason. But,
Maybe check on that and get some clarification too.
because I don't really have an issue, I think we probably should be passing on the credit card fees to the credit card users. I'm not sure I'm on board with putting a higher minimum on it, unless it's already in place, I'm just not aware of it. Because I don't normally pay with cards, so.
No, I think I missed the period, because it's 3.95% of the dollar amount with a $2.50.
Oh, $2.50.
There you go. That makes more sense.
That makes a lot more sense.
A lot more sense.
10,000, not $10 max. It's 10,000, so I missed a
Okay.
period and a zero.
We've been encouraging people to pay online with card, correct?
We do encourage people
Yeah,
to pay
so
online.
is it kind of counterproductive to say, hey, we really want you to pay online, but hey, we're also gonna now add that fee to you, even though we haven't been making you do it before?
Well, we'd really like them to, just sign up for automatic
Yeah.
ACH, where you send the file to the bank and pull it out.
Is it worth considering if we wanted to entice people to switch to the ACH, then you start charging back that 3.9 whatever percent or is saying this will be added to a credit card transaction, but if you do the automatic withdrawal, we will waive the $1.95 fee, because you say on here that the ACH fee would be roughly $1,920 that the city would have to cover, right? As opposed to the $40,000 that we're presently covering. So I'd rather offer up $2,000 to get back $38,000.
Yep. And some people like just going into our portal right now, and they put their credit card in, and they want it to come out on the 5th of every month. So they've set it up themselves to pay the 5th of every month, but they're still using their credit card. So we're still getting the 3.95% that we're paying, but they have set it up to be more
Right.
conducive to their schedule.
Right. If it's something, if you really want to get people off of the credit cards, we've got to tell them this is what's happening, but I do think that might be an inducement to get people to
Yeah, I mean,
quit
I think
using
for us,
them.
it's kind of the carrot and the stick. We want to offer the $10 credit, we talked about this fall a little bit, to try and get them to sign up to auto pay. But I mean, when we looked at this, that is going to be one of the issues is, part of it is, the nice thing about it, if people are signed up using their credit card, more likely than not, we're going to get that money. Whereas sometimes folks that sign up with a checking account, it might not go through. Whereas Visa's probably going to make the payment. So, yeah, I mean, we could definitely talk about that at staff level and see kind of what the utility billing department would like to do too. But it sounds like there's a few questions, so maybe what we can do is have this sent out. If you have any other questions for Linda, maybe just email them to her. Because, I mean, she's been handling this more than I have. I don't know as much about it as she does. And she's got the good contacts at Black Mountain that can help too. And we'll reach out to Mike too, maybe at the security there, so.
Yeah, I'll send out all this information that I have, that I've gotten from Black Mountain and everything.
All right. Thank you. Next, we got our administrator's report.
All right, I've got a couple items in here. Just wanted to let you know, we are going to be looking at applying for this Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant. The maximum is $500,000, and we think we have that pretty well sucked up. Brandon can tell you how much we're going to look at, but I think we have the match there between the land and the infrastructure we would have to provide for that Southwest development. But so we're looking at that. The Assemble meeting, I had a couple people ask tonight about questions about that. If you are interested, let me know, because then we get you signed up. Let me know what you would like to do, if you just want to go to the meeting or if you'd like to get one of the meal options. We're fortunate to be able to host that. Here in the wintertime, it's a little easier than having to drive somewhere else. They're planning on putting a grant proposal in for the Veterans Memorial as well. So that's something that I'm working with Park and Rec, and I know that the committee that's working with Ben is going to be getting that ready to go as well. Little information on franchise fees. That's something the legislature may or may not. As you probably or maybe have heard, the legislature is going to be kind of a mess this year. Right now, it sounds like the House is going to be in session next week, but they may not have a quorum, so they may not actually have a speaker, so I don't know. We'll be following that. Fortunately, we got our, grant, or our matching grant 2 years ago, so we don't have to worry about lobbying for something this year. So I'm happy about that. Anyways, we'll be following that. I do have a couple other things. If there's any questions on anything, otherwise, I have a couple of things. I know someone had asked me about our parkland dedication fee, and we currently do that by acre. So I just wanted to include, this is information that we got from the Rochester area builders, just on the fees in the region. We always try to look to make sure that we're competitive. A lot of the other cities in our area go by unit or by home. So I think we're going to be looking at switching over to a per unit or a per residence parkland dedication, as opposed to the per acre. I think that maybe straightforward, and it's not going to be, it's going to be largely revenue neutral. We're not looking at making a lot more. It's just maybe a little cleaner for the builders. So, you can see what they've got in there, and if there's any questions on that, I'd be interested in hearing those too. But I just wanted you to know that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, is making a recommendation probably in a month or two to council to look at switching that from a per acre to a per unit or something like that. And then one thing that we're going to be looking at doing here, one meeting each month, I think, talking with Dan a little bit about it, adding an item to the agenda, kind of towards the bottom of the agenda, kind of a round table, where it gives council members an opportunity, if they have a question about something that we haven't talked about, or they heard something. I mean, and not every month will we have a lot of questions, but I just want you to always have the opportunity to ask questions so we can get that on our agenda. If there's something that we don't talk about that you want to, we're going to actually put on the agenda once a month. We'll have it on probably the second meeting of the month, or we'll have a roundtable item, so people can just bring up whatever they feel like they want to do. So,
No action will be taken on it.
no action, but I mean, it's just so that, if there's something that we don't talk about, and you think about it during the meeting, that way we don't forget to bring it back. Because sometimes something comes up, and then you go, oh, I was gonna ask about something and just forgot about it. One other thing, they do have a new interim director for the Dodge Center Ambulance Service. He took over earlier this week, so we'll be waiting to hear from them if they have any meetings scheduled for this year. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Tim. Next, we'll have our engineers report with Brandon.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, yeah, new year, new funding opportunities here tonight to discuss, and then ultimately looking for some council direction on the 3 applications that should all be in your council packet. So, I'll just jump into the first one. Trunk Highway 57, LPP funding. What LPP stands for is Local Partnership Program. So MnDOT essentially took part of their budget and put it in this program and says, we're not building stuff that local cities and counties want in the district, so here's some money. You guys compete for it and tell us why it's a good thing to add to our trunk highway system. You may remember that LPP, since we got the funding for the 16th Street roundabout, MnDOT wasn't getting that built. We wanted it. We got it built, so we used their funds to build it. So same thing here for this application. We're looking at about $1.2 million to reconstruct 57th and 11th Street. That's where we stopped the reconstruction project. Separate cooperative agreement project up to the 16th Street roundabout that we use, again, as LPP funding. So the grant opportunity is open. Looking at doing it, as you can see in there, we're flexible on the schedule because they kind of like to play around money and tell us when it fits their fiscal period. Ultimately, we're looking at converting that from a current rural section into an urban 3-lane highway, similar to everything to the south. So we built kind of through the corridor through town, we removed parking and put that center turn lane in, so we would do that and would kind of tie into the median of the roundabout real nice. So that's what we have proposed. Ultimately, why would we do this? Because there is going to be some cost for the front-end engineering part of thing, and that's shown on page 2 there on the estimate. Why would we do it? Basically, the development to the west, let's back up. So when MnDOT said, hey, hold on, what are we going to do in this gap between the roundabout and 11th? And I told them, city didn't care. We don't have any utilities in that roadway. We're not interested in building MnDOT's roadway at the time. Fast forward, now we have some development pressure to the west. So when the Schutte property went before MnDOT, when they were looking at their concept plans that the council ultimately approved, they said you had to do this. Developer and city, you have to figure out what to do with this corridor because we don't want to put any more roads on here without having it improved. So they actually recommended that we applied for this program, so we're going to try to use that to leverage our funds and make it more competitive in our application. So that's why I think we do it from a development standpoint, because ultimately MnDOT's going to require us to agree to continue to pursue funding if we develop anything to the west there on that Schutte property. And that's why I think we would do it. There is some cost in there. Local funds, there's about $130,000 that would be incurred by the city that's not grant eligible. That's the front-end engineering me to get the plans together, but once we get construction, they cover the construction and even the construction engineering at some additional costs. That's we come up with a $1.2 million. So that said, I'll pause, and there's a resolution for your consideration, Mayor and Council.
Question I got for you, if we go forward with this, will they have connecting streets going into that subdivision, or will we have to come back and...
There will be one to the west to come in, so if we, say we did the project before the development's there, we would build our road and then build the curb and gutter and start the drive for them as part of that project, to make sure it's all striped and everything for
I just wanted to make sure we didn't do it and then have to come back and then add something that didn't look, blend in.
We'd stub kind of into the property or start stubbing, same thing we did like at the end of the 16th Street extension that we stopped, so we can kind of set all that up, so that way that developer is locked into where that road's gonna go, and we worked that out with them.
And it's the entrance that MnDOT's already said we could have.
At the correct location, yeah.
And that's 12th?
Yes, there'd be one more north of the dollar store going west, and that'd be it, through the corridor. And I think we're fine with that, it seems to kind of fit everything, so.
Okay. Does anybody else got any questions?
When do you think you'll hear about this?
The application's due here in January, say probably March timeline. And then we got it out as soon as 26 construction, but a lot of this money is actually not till 28, so maybe sometime. Now, they have said if we apply for this and we're still going forward, if the development comes before the highway's improved, that they would allow that development to be constructed, and then we would be just constructing in the current driveway that they would, or the roadway, excuse me, had already be built, so. So we're open to it. It's pretty straightforward from our standpoint. If we got to turn this thing around, we can.
Right, I mean, it's not an overly complicated project for us.
Yeah,
basically
Exactly.
just building the road up and.
Yep. And if it's delayed till 28 and the development happens, well then, great. Developer's happy because they're able to build their stuff and we'll just come back later and do it, so.
Well, have we been given an update on that development going
We have a
along?
meeting tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And after that, we'll have a good idea. The developer is, was very open to, different possibilities. It's more of the current landowner that there's some negotiation required with, so.
Right.
I'll take a motion to approve.
Make the motion to approve the grant
Thank you, Ryan.
application.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, second item tonight, Southwest Reconstruction, that's that reconstruction project that you see the map in your council packet. That is part of our bonding bill project. That map may look familiar because it was part of a previous application we made earlier this year for a program that the MPCA has regarding climate resilience and stormwater management. We actually, Tim and I got notice that we did receive that funding, so we were high-fiving around the office, and then got a notice that we did not receive the funding. They made a mistake. So, now that they opened the funding back up in a new year, I said, well,
We figured we had it pretty close. So now we went to applying again, the state of Minnesota, maybe.
yeah, so I don't know what happened, but regardless, so we're looking at, we already kinda did all the heavy lifting. We got this pretty map made to resubmit the application, because they threw some more money at it, so there's more money out there available. So, if there's money available, we like to shake that money tree and try to get the money. So, ultimately, just looking, I think it was right along, slightly underneath $1 million we applied for, and that'd be for the stormwater piping and the stormwater pond. So I guess maybe I'd ask the council to consider moving forward with that with just a motion. We don't need a formal resolution for this program. And this project is likely gonna be happening this year, so if we're gonna get any more money, now's the time to do it. So, we got council direction to proceed with the project. We're developing the plans. I got review with staff tomorrow, the kind of final plans, so it's gonna be before you here in the coming months, so, that's where we're at.
Anybody got any questions for Brandon?
Will there be any fencing around it at all on the west side?
Yeah, so,
I see shrubbery on the east.
yeah, I think we just showed that just because there's some houses along there. I actually don't think we have that in the construction plan. We should talk about that at a staff level, Tim, tomorrow.
There's a lot of kids that walk from that side to the park and,
Yep. We do have a berm
Looks
along
big.
there, or,
Yep.
it's graded flat behind the houses, so you could still walk along
Yep.
there. To answer your question about fencing, fencing is not recommended on stormwater ponds, through the League of Minnesota Cities, and then the Minnesota Stormwater Manual that the MPCA has, so we generally don't fence.
foliage.
We could do that. Where do kids walk along the
Well, there's
east-west?
kids over there that are walking across, trying to get to the park, and, I mean, they walk all over that area, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
showed a trail too,
So we're trying to get that trail on the highway.
you know, I showed a trail along there. I'm not sure how well that's used, but I thought it'd be good to at least when we're building that pond to plan to still have a trail corridor open, whether it was paved or not, or wood chipped. I just wanted to leave a corridor in there, and it is open along there, in the final construction plan, so I wanted to show that there's a trail corridor. So yeah, plantings, that's easy enough to do. We can work with staff on getting something planted in there, whether it's part of the project or after the fact, so. Yeah, it is gonna be a good-sized pond back there.
Yeah.
I think it has about 4 feet of storage, that's dead storage water sits in there all the time, and then it's 4 or 5 feet of bounce, when the rains come. And then also, it's gonna be below the houses, so we never have a possibility where it breaches and would go in the
Right.
house or back up in the houses. We have emergency overflow, and it's all below that. So the water would go out and around the pond. Or if Maston Creek's right on the floodplain, we're hugging that floodplain. In theory, if the pond is dry, the creek could actually come up into the pond too, but it wouldn't have a negative impact to the floodplain, so we're removing material from the floodplain.
Put some fish in there.
There's fish in there.
So you'd like a motion for that?
Yeah, it's motion, and then there's no formal resolution needed with this application.
Can we move forward with it?
Take
Make the motion.
Okay, Ryan, we've got a motion from Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, thank you.
All right, third and final discussion tonight, Maston Creek trunk sewer line replacement. There is additional funding to the MPCA for a planning grant. It's a little different. The last one was an implementation grant to put pipes to put pond into the ground. This is forward to coming up with plans to, again, be more climate resilient. Talking to our staff, and I was kinda like, well, Caslin's already done the big trunk line sewer at East Main Street. We already got our bonding bill from flooding. but I saw in here improve resilience to wastewater systems. So that got me thinking about something that we talked about after the 2019 flood, the Maston Creek trunk line sewer replacement. So if you remember, way back machine when we looked at our sewer resilient plan or stormwater plan, included getting the Bonneville money, which we did, getting East Main Street done, which we did, some pump and control, which we did. One of the last big projects, or next big project from the capital improvement planning was replacement of that trunk line, because the trunk line's undersized from the treatment plant all the way up Maston Creek to the railroad bridge here, where Maston Creek goes underneath the railroad bridge, kind of a bottleneck of sewers all coming together and goes in that trunk line. And it's also in the floodplain, so it floods in 2019. If you remember, we have a manhole casting, knocked that manhole casting off, was taking in water, flooded, and backed the sewer up through the town. So, since the other sidebar there is the floodplain map changed through there. Dodge County went through there and remapped the floodplain through there. So my take on this is us starting to plan for that replacement by doing our survey to figure out which manholes are down in the water, where they're at, and then starting to develop a plan for replacement of that trunk line, get some of our work that we were gonna be doing on anyway, just kind of put that in motion. And ultimately, it is starting to plan to be more resilient from not only a stormwater perspective, but also our wastewater system here. So I think there's like 500,000 available for towns that are less than 10,000 people. Generally, smaller towns aren't as nimble at getting funding, so I think it's a good opportunity. It's a new program, so I don't know how much we're gonna get or how many applications they're gonna get, but there's a $50,000 cap, so I think it would be, again, just for that planning to get that stuff kind of rolling for that project. Maybe a year earlier than I maybe would have started planning for that, because I think we need a couple of years of non-construction after this upcoming construction year, but I think it'd be good to start getting that plan together. And obviously, if we can get MPCA to help participate in that cost, I think it's a good opportunity. So, pause there. Again, about 50,000 is what we'd be going for. That is the max, and I think we could definitely spend that in figuring out what we're gonna do with that sewer and where we're gonna put it and how it all work out. So, again, looking for a motion to direct staff to submit that funding.
Well, it'd definitely be useful down the road. I mean, we gotta plan ahead so we don't have another 2019. I mean, we've been working on it, but we need to keep working on it, so.
Well, with the extra plant capacity, doing another plant expansion is, hopefully be able to push that, I
Yeah.
think, further. But bringing the sewage there is gonna be the bottleneck, like you talked about. And I think if we're able to achieve that project, then we might be able to look at adjusting our sewer rates even a little bit, hopefully downward, if we don't have to do another big plant expansion.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve going for that $50,000 grant.
Thank you, Ryan. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Brandon. Up next, we got personnel. Tim?
Sure, I'm just looking for some clarification tonight. During our union negotiations this year, there was, the police had their own COLA that was set, which is a different COLA than what our standard employee COLA is. And we have the police chief. I just want clarification on which COLA the council intended for him to be getting. He's not in the union, so the default, from my perspective, would be putting him in the general employee COLA. But if that's not correct, then I'm just looking for feedback. I had run it past, the previous mayor ran it past Dan, and they couldn't remember that we had actually finalized after we kind of discussed it a little bit. So I'm just looking for that feedback. We haven't paid a payroll in 2025 yet, so it isn't an issue, but I want to get clarification tonight.
I don't think we decided.
We never decided, I mean, we talked about it, but then we kind of tabled it and waited for the negotiations, and then it kind of never came back.
What's the difference?
The police, I believe their COLA is 8%, and the standard was 6% in the new union contracts for 2025.
And technically, he's not part of the union.
No, he's not part of the
He
union.
doesn't pay union dues.
Right.
All right, what's the union's contract for next year?
Let's see, for 2026,
We
I
did
think that is...
8 and 5, or?
8 and 5, yep,
Three?
that's right, because theirs is a 2-year. And then the other contract would be a 3-year, so...
What would his be next year? I mean, if we didn't do your union, it's 6 this year, then,
I think it's 4.
I think it's 4.
It's 4 in 2026 for the other union contract. It's up to the council, whatever you guys, tell me. I mean, like I said, he's not in the union, so technically, I would default to saying, well, he's, standard. But I just want to make sure that the council's cognizant of that, and that's what you wanted us to do.
not paying union dues, he's already saving there, so I think 6 is, does it offset almost?
And you were stating that even if he went 6 versus 8, there's nobody near.
Yeah, I mean, I would be
pay
concerned
level.
if the sergeant or the SRO
Investigator.
or somebody like that was gonna be, surpassing his salary, that would be a concern for me, definitely. But I don't think that's gonna be the case in this situation, so.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
6 is fine.
Well, that's what we'll do then. Thank you very much. No, that was all it was, just, 'cause, we talked about a lot of things, there were some long meetings, and we just didn't get back around to that, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Anything from our attorney? No? Okay. Any questions on correspondence that anybody has?
Yeah. The finance report, is this complete, or are there still outstanding receipts and expenses to be entered?
There are a number of, this is an incomplete report.
Okay.
So it's where it is year-to-date. We've asked all the department heads, I know Sarah asked them, and I told her to ask them, to try and have all the receipts in by the 15th. We have, the folks from Smith Schaefer here, they'll be here on the 17th. And so there'll be a number of journal entries that have to be made and things that have to be entered back into 24.
Okay.
As you can see right now, for example, the general fund's had some big transactions this month. If you look at there's, a $2 million transaction where it's really not a $2 million transaction, it's just money that was from the fire hall that was sitting in the general fund, which has been moved out to the debt service fund. So, I mean,
Yeah.
a few things like that look a little unusual. We get, a month from now, this will probably be a lot more accurate. I mean, this is what it looks like in the income statement. I want to provide it to you, mostly on the expenditure side. Most of the expenses shouldn't change dramatically, but the revenue side, things will get moved around as we're directed by Smith Schaefer.
Okay, well, that's promising, because I'm specifically looking at the year-to-dates, which obviously would be the whole year, and some things that stood out to me was the police department looks like they were well under budget, which is great, if it's gonna stay that way. I noticed that the liquor store operated a loss, so I'm hoping there's some receipts to come in there that...
Sure, I would say, so
Weren't in
one
yet.
thing to take into account, this is not operating, it includes all the expenditures they would have had, including the costs that were
Yeah, there
accrued
was
for the
some-
parking lot.
There was some capital and stuff, I
Yeah,
realize that,
so that's something to keep in mind, yeah, I mean, we don't have any of the December receipts, that's usually a big month for them, so
Yep, that's what I was
anticipate that to flip,
expecting.
to a positive.
Yeah,
And if you back
okay.
out like the 100,000 they had in, the parking cost, because their operations, I think, will be profitable. Overall, the fund balance may go down some this year in the liquor fund, just like it did last year. Last year, we did that big remodel.
Yep.
So the operations were profitable, I think they made 65,000, but, they did have a reduction in their fund balance because of that, so.
Okay.
The police department, one note on that would be, we are, in this budget, we had funded one more officer position, which the council decided, with all the new officers we had last year, that we would not, that's one of the reasons for that so much lower.
Okay.
It works in tandem.
And we spent more in capital than we were budgeting for, so it offsets it a little bit, so...
That's right.
But then we had extra funding, I think, for that too, so... Anyway, yeah, the numbers are all looking pretty good, so I'm fairly happy with that.
Utility funds, right, are running positive balances. That doesn't include like
Yep.
the last month of payments, so I'm expecting to be in the black for all of our utility funds this year, which
Yep.
is always a positive.
I remember water being iffy, and it turned out to be a lot better than the $2 I think was projected last year, so
Well,
that's good.
we always try to be conservative, on
No, that's-
our stuff. And I will say, there are times when people come, I just tell them no on things they wanna buy. At the end of the day, if they don't have the budget for it and it's not essential, well, we're not gonna spend it, so.
Great.
Did we get rid of K1, or am I reading something wrong?
The
K1.
one that was in the agenda in Dropbox is different.
Yeah, no, there should be a closed session for that under the L,
I
actually.
assume
think
we're
it is.
coming back to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, we can go back to that at the end here, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll go through all of
Yeah.
our items.
Sorry.
Was I supposed to bring that up?
No, you're good, it's fine, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
It isn't?
You didn't give me that.
No problem. But if there are other questions, like I said, I think, this time next month, we'll have a little bit more complete numbers. Overall, I'm pleased with the performance of the budget. We had revenues a little higher than anticipated for some of the grants that we were able to get, and we had expenses that we held in check. Generally speaking, obviously, a lot of that had to do with, we know last year was a lower year for payroll than a typical increase would be. Like, this year will be a bigger jump for that, so.
One more question.
Sure.
Have we heard any more from on the EDA level for Good Brewing?
Well, I mean, the city attorney's provided me a brief with, her understanding of the situation there, and the EDA is gonna be discussing at their next meeting in a little bit more detail. You know, it's gonna have to work through the process and see how things go, but that loan currently is in arrears, so that is unfortunate, but, you know, there's a process that we'll have to follow, and we're not the only creditor
Right.
that, will be there, so it's a, like I said, unfortunate situation there, so.
So now we need to do a closed session?
That's right.
Will it be recorded? Okay. So, we will be going ahead and go into a closed session, so if anybody would like to stay, you're welcome to go into the other room. Otherwise, thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. God bless.
Stay warm.
Bye, Brandon.